Picture this. It's a Tuesday morning in 2387, and Admiral David Harrison is drinking his third cup of coffee on the bridge of the U.S. Defiance when everything changes. His communications officer, Lieutenant Rebecca Thompson, suddenly goes pale and starts frantically checking her instruments. "Admiral," she says, her voice barely above a whisper, "we got 17 unknown contacts at the edge of the system." David sets down his coffee and walks over to the main display. What he sees makes his blood run cold. These aren't the sleek, threatening warships you'd expect from an invasion force. These vessels look like they've been through hell itself. Their hulls are twisted and scarred, covered in burn marks from weapons that shouldn't even exist. Some of the ships are venting atmosphere, leaving trails of frozen gas behind them like tears in space. Others are barely holding together, their engines flickering like dying candles. "Sir," calls out Ensign Kevin Walsh from the sensor station. "They're broadcasting on every frequency we know about. Surrender signals, distress calls, even old emergency codes from the early colony days. But here's the weird part. None of these languages are in our database." David leans forward, studying the strange vessels. The largest ship is maybe twice the size of a human cruiser, but its design is completely alien. Organic curves blend with geometric patterns, like someone tried to grow architecture instead of building it. The smaller ships are even more bizarre. Some look like giant flowers made of metal. Others resemble crystalline sculptures that somehow learn to fly. Are they hostile? David asks, though his gut already knows the answer. "No, sir," Rebecca replies, pulling off her headset. "If anything, they seem terrified. The signals we're picking up, it's like they're begging us not to shoot." That's when the first translation comes through. The ship's artificial intelligence, working overtime to decode the alien languages, finally manages to piece together a message. The voice that comes through the speakers is tired, desperate, and unmistakably intelligent. "Please, we seek sanctuary. We have traveled so far. The stories said you'd understand." David feels a chill run down his spine. Stories? What stories could aliens possibly have about humans? Over the next few hours, more translations come through. Bit by bit, a picture emerges that changes everything humanity thought it knew about the galaxy. These aren't just random refugees. They're survivors from something called the Galactic Confederation, a massive empire that spans half the known galaxy. But here's the terrifying part. The Confederation doesn't rule through force. They rule through something far more insidious: perfect unity. The lead alien, who finally manages to communicate his name as Zekthera, explains through broken translation software how the Confederation works. They don't conquer planets with armies. Instead, they arrive with promises of peace, prosperity, and an end to all conflict. All you have to do is give up one tiny thing: your individual will. Join the collective consciousness. They say, let the group mind make all the decisions. No more arguments, no more wars, no more pain of making difficult choices. And species after species said yes. Imagine, Zekthera's translated voice echoes the bridge, a galaxy where every being thinks the same thoughts, feels the same feelings, wants the same things. Perfect harmony. They called it perfect peace. But some beings refused. Artists who couldn't bear to give up their creativity. Scientists who needed individual thought to make breakthroughs. Philosophers who understood that diversity of thought was precious beyond measure. These became the remnant, hunted, persecuted, driven to the very edges of known space. But we remember the stories. Zekthera continues. Stories passed down from the early days of galactic contact, before the Confederation rose to power. Stories about a young species that lived near a yellow star, beings who were offered the same choice we faced. Do you know what these humans supposedly said to the most powerful force in the galaxy? David finds himself leaning forward, completely absorbed. They said no, not just no. They said absolutely not and meant it. When faced with impossible odds, when offered perfect peace in exchange for their freedom, these humans chose to fight. They chose chaos over control, uncertainty over safety, the right to be wrong over the promise of always being right. Lieutenant Thompson looks up from her station, her eyes wide. "Sir, we're picking up more ships on long-range sensors. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all heading this way. David realizes what's happening. Word is spreading. The remnant aren't just refugees. They're proof that resistance is possible. And somehow, through stories and legends, they all know about the crazy humans who chose freedom over paradise. He looks out at the 17 battered ships, carrying the last free-thinking beings in the galaxy, and makes the easiest decision of his life. Open a channel, he says quietly. All frequencies. Channel open, sir. David takes a deep breath and speaks words that will echo across the galaxy. Welcome to the solar system. Welcome home. Commander Lisa Patterson has been in the military for 15 years, but nothing prepared her for what she sees when the airlock opens. The smell hits her first, not the clean, recycled air of human ships, but something thick and stale, like breathing through wet cloth. The corridor stretches ahead of her, packed with beings she's never seen before, and the silence is what gets to her most. These aren't the sounds of a living ship. There's no chatter, no laughter, barely even whispers. Her team follows close behind. Dr. William Chun carrying his medical kit, Sergeant Robert Kim with his hand, nowhere near his weapon, and Specialist Jennifer Walsh recording everything on her portable scanner. They move slowly through the crowd, and Lisa notices something strange. The different alien species aren't mixing. They're separated into distinct groups, but not like enemies avoiding each other. It's more like they're scared to interact. A family of what looks like crystalline beings huddles together near one wall. Their bodies shimmer with soft blue light, and Lisa can see smaller versions, children, she realizes, pressed close to their parents. Further down, a group of tall, plant-like creatures stand perfectly still, their leaf-covered arms wrapped around themselves. Every species seems to be trying to take up as little space as possible. "Commander," Dr. Chin whispers, checking his atmospheric readings, "these air recyclers are running at 300% capacity. That's impossible to sustain long-term." Lisa nods, but she's focused on something else. A small child, at least she thinks it's a child, from one of the crystalline families has dropped what looks like a toy. It rolls across the corridor toward the plant-like beings. The child takes a step forward, then stops, looking terrified. One of the plant creatures notices the toy, starts to reach for it, then also freezes. "It's okay," Lisa says softly, walking over to pick up the toy herself. It's warm to the touch and pulses with the same blue light as the child. She hands it to the little one, who takes it with what might be a grateful look, though alien expressions are hard to read. That's when she hears her name being called. "Commander Patterson?" The voice comes from a translation device held by a being unlike any of the others. He's tall and graceful, with skin that shifts colors like oil on water. His 4 arms move in complex patterns as he speaks, and Lisa realizes he's trying to communicate in multiple ways at once. "I am..." He pauses, glances around nervously, then leans closer and whispers, "I am Zekdara." The way he says his own name sends chills down Lisa's spine, like he's sharing a dangerous secret. "I lead these people," he continues, his translated voice filled with exhaustion. "Thank you for allowing us aboard your vessel. We've been traveling for many cycles, and our ships, they are failing." Dr. Chin steps forward with a scanner. "We'd like to help with medical care, if you'll let us. Some of your people look like they need immediate attention." Zekdara's skin shifts to a deeper color. Maybe surprise, maybe fear. "You would help us? Without requiring integration first." "Integration?" Lisa asks. "The process," Zekdara explains, his 4 arms gesturing sadly, "where individual thoughts are, how do you say, smooth away, made consistent with the group. The Confederation taught us that differences cause conflict, so they remove differences." Sergeant Kim, who's been quietly observing, speaks up. "They brainwash people?" "Not brainwash," Zekdara says, though his skin color suggests he's struggling with the concept. "They make everything peaceful, harmonious. No arguments, no disagreements, no individual wants that might cause problems. Everyone thinks the same thoughts, wants the same things." Lisa feels her stomach turn. "And you refused?" Zekdara's skin cycles through several colors rapidly, what Lisa is starting to recognize as emotional distress. "We were artists once," he says. "My people, we created sculptures from living light. The Thorani there," he points to the plant-like beings, "they composed symphonies using the electromagnetic signatures of stars. The Kithara," he indicates a crystalline family. "They were philosophers who debated the nature of existence for centuries." "What happened?" Dr. Chen asks, though Lisa can see in his eyes that he already knows. "The Confederation came to each of our worlds with the same offer. Join the collective consciousness. Let the group mind make all decisions. No more war, no more conflict, no more suffering. Just perfect eternal peace." Zektara's skin turns a dull gray, and most of our people said yes. Lisa watches as he looks around at the separated groups in the corridor. Those who refused were declared dangerous, threats to galactic harmony. We were hunted, pursued across the galaxy. Our art was destroyed, our music silenced, our questions forbidden. "But you escaped," Specialist Walsh says. "Barely, and only because we remember the old stories. Stories from before the Confederation, when the galaxy was still young and chaotic and beautiful. Stories about a species that lived near a yellow star, beings who were offered the same choice." Lisa feels her heart start racing. "Humans?" Zektara's skin brightens slightly. "The humans, yes. The story said they were approached by an early version of what became the Confederation, offered perfect unity, perfect peace. Do you know what they supposedly did?" Lisa finds herself smiling despite the circumstances. "Let me guess. They told them to take their perfect peace and shove it." For the first time since boarding the ship, Lisa hears something she didn't expect. Laughter. Quiet, careful laughter from dozens of different species, but laughter nonetheless. "Yes," Zektara says, his skin cycling through what Lisa hopes are happy colors. "That is exactly what the story said. The UN Assembly Hall in New York has never seen anything like this. For 3 days straight, delegates have been shouting at each other while holographic displays show impossible things, alien technology that bends the laws of physics, star maps marking dead civilizations, and most disturbing of all, video footage from Captain Robert Hayes' recent deep space patrol that makes everyone in the room go quiet. Secretary General Patricia Murphy pounds her gavel for the 100th time, trying to restore order. The delegate from Brazil has the floor, she announces, her voice hoarse from 3 days of this chaos. Representative Carlos Mendoza stands up, his tablet displaying economic projections that make everyone's eyes widen. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about technology that could solve every energy crisis on Earth. These refugees have fusion reactors the size of coffee tables, medical devices that can regrow limbs, transportation systems that make our fastest ships look like horse-drawn carriages. The economic opportunities alone could lift every nation out of poverty within a generation." Half the assembly erupts in agreement, but the other half starts shouting back immediately. "And paint the biggest target in galactic history on our backs," yells Representative Angela Foster from the UK. "You heard the same intelligence reports I did. This confederation has consumed entire galactic arms. Billions of species, trillions of beings, all absorbed into their collective consciousness. And you want to announce to the entire galaxy that Earth is harboring their enemies." The Chinese delegate, Dr. James Liu, stand without waiting for recognition. The refugee ships are falling apart. Their life support systems are failing. Are we really going to let innocent beings die while we argue about theoretical threats? Theoretical? Representative Foster shoots back. "Captain Hayes showed us footage of 3 different star systems where the Confederation has already been. Those worlds aren't theoretical, they're graveyards." That's when Captain Robert Hayes himself finally stands up. The room goes quiet immediately. Hayes is a legend in the Space Navy. 30 years of deep space exploration, first contact with 17 different species, survivor of the Proxima incident. When he talks, people listen. But today, Hayes looks like he's aged 10 years in the past month. His usually perfect uniform is wrinkled, his eyes are bloodshot, and his hand shakes slightly as he approaches the podium. 3 weeks ago, Hayes begins, his voice barely above a whisper. My ship, the UES Endeavour, was conducting a routine survey of the Kepler 442 system. According to our records, It was home to a thriving civilization called the Zenthari. Population, 12 billion. They've been sending us cultural exchanges, art, music, scientific papers for 50 years. The assembly is dead silent now. Even the translators have stopped their quiet murmuring. When we arrived, Hayes continues, we found the planet intact. No battle damage, no signs of war, no destruction at all. The cities were perfect. The infrastructure was running smoothly. The population was exactly where it should be. 12 billion Zenthari go about their daily lives. He pauses, and Lisa can see his hands gripping the podium. But they weren't alive. Not really. I landed with a contact team, and we spent 6 hours walking through their capital city. 12 million beings, all moving in perfect synchronization. They worked without speaking, ate without tasting, lived without dreaming. When we tried to communicate, they all responded with the exact same words. We are at peace. We are unified. Individual thought creates suffering. We have eliminated suffering. Representative Mendoza interrupts. But surely that's just their choice of governance. It wasn't choice. Hayes explodes, his voice echoing through the chamber. We found records, fragments of their old databases. The Zenthari used to be explorers. Just like us, they wrote poetry. They asked questions. They argued about everything from art to physics to the meaning of existence. They were gloriously, chaotically alive. He pulls up a holographic display, showing 2 images side by side. The first shows Zenthari art, wild, colorful sculptures that seem to dance with their own energy. The second shows the same beings Hayes encountered, moving with mechanical precision through sterile, identical buildings. The Confederation didn't conquer them with weapons. Hayes says quietly, they conquered them with perfection. No more arguments, no more difficult decisions, no more pain of individual responsibility. Just perfect, eternal sameness. The assembly is completely silent now. And that's what these refugees are running from. Hayes continues. They're not criminals or terrorists. They're the last beings in the galaxy who still remember what it feels like to disagree, to create something new, to make mistakes and learn from them. They came to us because somewhere in their ancient stories, they heard about a species crazy enough to choose freedom over safety. He looks around the room, making eye contact with delegates from every continent. So, yes, Representative Foster is right. Helping these refugees will make us enemies of the most powerful force in the galaxy. And yes, Representative Mendoza is right that their technology could transform our civilization. But here's what nobody wants to say out loud. We're not really deciding whether to help refugees. Hayes' voice grows stronger, filled with conviction. We're deciding who we are as a species. Are we the humans who looked at impossible odds and said, absolutely not? Or are we the humans who will trade our souls for safety? The silence stretches for nearly a minute. Finally, Secretary General Murphy speaks. All in favor of granting sanctuary status to the remnant refugees? The vote isn't even close. Dr. Michael Torres wakes up every morning to the sound of something that shouldn't exist. A symphony being played by instruments from 12 different worlds. His apartment window overlooks what used to be empty farmland outside London, but now stretches out into the most extraordinary sight on Earth. The integration zones, as politicians still call them, have grown into actual cities where the impossible happens every single day. Michael grabs his coffee and his recording equipment. Same routine he's followed for 2 years now. As the lead anthropologist documenting First Contact, he thought he was prepared for anything. He was wrong. Nothing in his 20-year career studying human cultures prepared him for watching entirely new forms of civilization being born right before his eyes. Walking down what the locals now call Harmony Street, Michael passes engineer Rebecca Walsh working with a Zenthari biotechnician on something that looks like a building growing itself. The Zenthari, a tall, graceful being whose skin shifts colors with her emotions, is guiding living metal into complex patterns while Rebecca feeds power calculations into a device that translates her math into biochemical signals the alien technology can understand. Morning, Doc. Rebecca calls out, not taking her eyes off the structure taking shape in front of them. You gotta see this. Keela here is teaching me how to grow buildings instead of constructing them. We're talking about architecture that repairs itself, adapts to weather, even changes layout based on what the inhabitants need. Killa, the Zenthri engineer, makes a sound that the translation device renders as laughter. Rebecca teaches me efficiency concepts I never considered. Human engineering is so direct, we overcomplicate everything because we're used to having infinite time. Your species thinks in shortcuts that actually work better. Michael makes notes on his tablet, but what strikes him isn't the technology. It's the easy friendship between two beings who shouldn't even be able to communicate. Rebecca is a former London subway engineer who never finished college. Killa is from a species that was building stellar megastructures while humans were still figuring out fire. And yet they work together like they've been partners for years. Further down the street, Michael hears music that makes his chest vibrate in ways that shouldn't be physically possible. The sound is coming from what used to be a community center, but now serves as an experimental performance space. Inside, he finds something that brings tears to his eyes every time he sees it. Tommy Martinez, a 12-year-old violinist from Madrid, is playing alongside a crystalline being whose entire body resonates like a living instrument. The kid's violin weaves in and out of harmonic frequencies that the alien generates naturally, creating music that no single species could produce alone. Behind them, a plant like the Rani sways in rhythm, its leaves rustling in patterns that add percussion to their impossible duet. They just started playing together 3 days ago, explains Dr. Jennifer Adams, the music teacher who's been documenting these cross-species collaborations. Tommy was practicing alone, and Veltar, that's our crystalline friend there, heard the music and started harmonizing. Now they're composing pieces that incorporate mathematical concepts neither species discovered independently. Michael records everything, but he's learned that the most important moments happen when he's not looking for them. Like yesterday, when he watched 5-year-old Anachun from Manchester teaching a group of young Kithra how to play hide-and-seek. The alien children, if that's the right word for juvenile crystalline beings, had never encountered the concept of play without purpose. For species that evolved in collective consciousness, the idea of doing something just for fun was revolutionary. Dr. Torres, Anna had explained with the serious tone only small children can manage, they don't know how to be silly, so I'm teaching them. And it worked. Within an hour, crystalline children were giggling, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, as they discovered the joy of hiding behind furniture and jumping out to surprise each other. But what really gets to Michael are the quiet moments, like when he found elderly Mr. William Thompson, a retired librarian from Yorkshire, sitting with Zekdara under a tree that the Rani refugee had grown specifically for shade. They weren't talking, just sitting together, both reading books, William with a physical paperback, Zekdara with a device that projected text directly into his visual field. He's teaching me about human literature, Zekdara had explained when Michael approached. I'm sharing our philosophical text with him. We discovered that your Shakespeare and our greatest poet, Delandra, asked many of the same questions about existence, just in different words. William had looked up from his book, a collection of the Rani poetry translated into English, and smiled. Turns out loneliness and hope feel the same everywhere in the galaxy. Document. Who would have thought? That night, Michael reviews his recordings and realizes what he's actually documenting. It's not just first contact or cultural exchange. It's proof of something the Confederation claimed was impossible. That differences don't create conflict when people choose to celebrate them instead of eliminate them. The refugee children are growing up bilingual in languages from different star systems. Human kids are learning to think in ways their parents never imagined. Adults from both cultures are solving problems by combining perspectives that evolve on completely different worlds. And every day, more refugee ships arrive, drawn by stories spreading across the galaxy about a small blue planet where being different isn't just accepted, it's treasured. Michael closes his laptop and looks out his window at the lights of a city that shouldn't exist, listening to a lullaby being sung in 3 different languages by voices that came from across the stars to find their home. Admiral David Harrison is having his morning briefing when the alarm starts screaming. After 5 years of relative peace, the sound makes everyone on the bridge of the UES Defiance freeze. Lieutenant Rebecca Thompson, now as Chief Communications Officer, looks up from her console with the expression Harrison has been dreading for half a decade. "Sir," she says quietly, "long-range sensors are picking up massive contact at the edge of the system. Configuration, unknown, but the energy signatures match theoretical models for Confederation vessels." Harrison feels his stomach drop, but he keeps his voice steady. "How many?" 47 confirmed contacts, sir. More appearing every minute. Thompson's hand shakes slightly as she works her console. "Admiral, these ships are enormous. The smallest one is twice the size of our largest battleship." Through the bridge windows, Harrison can see something that would have been impossible 5 years ago. His fleet isn't just human anymore. The sleek lines of Earth's newest cruisers fly alongside vessels that look like living art. Zen-3 bioships that pulse with their own heartbeats. Crystalline Kithra vessels that shimmer like captured starlight, and dozens of other designs that represent every species that has found sanctuary in the Sol system. "Open a channel to all ships," Harrison orders. Human and refugee vessels alike. Captain Lisa Patterson, now commanding the hybrid vessel Unity, appears on a screen alongside commanders from a dozen different species. Her ship is a marvel of combined engineering, human tactical systems integrated with Durrani biotechnology and Kithra crystal computing matrices. It shouldn't work, but somehow it's become one of the most effective vessels in the fleet. "Admiral," Lisa says, "we're receiving the standard Confederation broadcast on all frequencies." Harrison nods. "Put it through." The voice that fills the bridge is perfectly calm, utterly emotionless, and somehow more terrifying than any threat could be. "Greetings, inhabitants of the system. We are representatives of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace to offer you the greatest gift in the galaxy, unity with the collective consciousness. Surrender the criminal elements you harbor. Submit to integration and know eternal harmony." The message repeats in dozens of languages, including human ones. The Confederation has done their homework. "Sir," calls out Ensign Kevin Walsh from the tactical station, "I'm reading power signatures consistent with planet-killing weapons on at least 12 of their vessels." Harrison expected this, but hearing it confirmed still makes his blood run cold. The Confederation doesn't make idle threats. They perfected the art of overwhelming force to convince species that resistance is futile, but they've never encountered anything like what Earth has become. "Thompson, open a channel. All frequencies, maximum broadcast power. I want every ship in their fleet to hear this clearly." "Channel open, sir." Harrison stands, looking out at the mixed fleet surrounding him. Human vessels flying alongside ships from 17 different refugee species, each one representing beings who chose freedom over safety, chaos over control, the right to disagree over the comfort of eternal agreement. "Confederation fleet, this is Admiral David Harrison of United Earth Systems, speaking on behalf of the Sol System Alliance." His voice carries clearly across space. Translated simultaneously into dozens of languages by the communication systems his people have built with refugee technology. "You offer us peace through surrender of our individuality. You promise harmony through the elimination of independent thought. You guarantee an end to conflict by destroying the very diversity that makes life worth living." Harrison pauses, thinking about everything that's happened over the past 5 years. The cities that have grown around Earth and its colonies where human children play games invented on worlds 100 light years away. The art galleries where sculptures made of living light stand next to paintings that incorporate mathematics from alien cultures. The schools where kids learn to solve problems by combining human intuition with alien logic. Our answer is the same one our species has always given to anyone who demands we surrender our freedom. Absolutely not. The bridge is completely silent, except for the hum of the ship's systems. "We are the guardians of what you discarded," Harrison continues, his voice growing stronger. "We are the proof that your perfect unity is nothing but a beautiful lie wrapped around the death of everything that makes existence meaningful. This system stands as sanctuary for anyone who chooses individual thought over group programming, magnificent chaos over sterile order, and the glorious disaster-free will over your suffocating peace." Through his sensors, Harrison can see the Confederation fleet beginning to move into attack formation. But something strange is happening. The perfectly synchronized movement he expected isn't there. Some ships are moving faster than others, their formation becoming ragged. "Sir," Thompson whispers, "we're receiving signals from across the galaxy. Dozens of star systems, hundreds of worlds. The refugee populations we couldn't help evacuate. They're listening to our transmission." On the tactical display, Harrison watches as the Confederation fleet hesitates. For the first time in millennia, they're encountering genuine resistance, and their collective consciousness doesn't quite know how to process it. But more importantly, on worlds scattered across the galaxy, beings who have spent generations in the suffocating embrace of perfect unity are hearing something they thought was lost forever. Someone saying no. And in that hesitation, in that moment of uncertainty from the most powerful force in the galaxy, hope is reborn among the stars.